Census collects a wealth of information on culturally diverse communities, and most of it is included in Profile ID for easy access. Understanding your diverse communities is important for helping new migrants settle in, as well as for planning services, library collections, and council communications. Information on culturally diverse communities is found here under Who Are We? The first topic is the simplest, birthplace. Where was a person born? This is classified by country. You can see in the table a list of the top 10 countries of birth other than Australia, which is sorted by size in the latest census year. The list appears on the chart below compared to a benchmark. Dominant birthplaces in your area are those which are present in larger proportions to the benchmark. In this case, it's people from China, Malaysia, and Hong Kong. The UK, although it's the second largest group, is not described as dominant because in Whitehorse, people born in the UK are less prevalent than in the benchmark area, which is Greater Melbourne. The second chart shows the emerging groups, that is, those with the most change over the selected time period. Most of these groups are emerging in this case, but particularly Chinese in quite large numbers, over 5,000. But the number of people born in the UK, Greece and Italy all declined. If you want to drill down further, back in the top 10 table, there's a button called Show Me More, and that will give you the longer list right down to 0.1% of population, which in this case is Malta. There's also a useful summary, which gives you totals of the population from Australia, born overseas, total from non-English speaking backgrounds and main English speaking countries. If you need further detail on countries not represented in this list, you can use the data exporter, which is the subject of another video. You might in fact want to understand more about the languages that are spoken in your area, and for that you can go to Language Spoken at Home, which you can change from the toolbar or the main menu. The language question in the census asks which languages other than English are spoken at home by the individual. Going to this page, we can see it works very much the same way as the country of birth page. As you can see here, Mandarin and Cantonese are dominant, but if you click Show Me More on the table, you can see that there are well over 30 different language groups present in Whitehorse in quite significant numbers. Many of these have increased in the last census period as well. Related to language is proficiency in English. For those who speak a language other than English at home, this is a self-assessment of how well they speak English. It's not independently assessed, but is a self-responded as with all questions on the census. You can see that for Whitehorse, there is a slightly larger proportion of people with poor English proficiency, but it's still a fairly low proportion of total population at 5.5%. Overseas arrivals looks at the year of arrival of the overseas born population in your area. Do you have a lot of recent migrants, or is this a well-established community? In this case, arrivals in the last 5 years make up about 27% of the overseas born population, which is higher than the Melbourne average, so the growing diversity of the area is a fairly recent trend. Ancestry is a little more difficult to define than the other diversity topics. The census question asked people to look at their ancestry going back up to 3 generations. People could give up to 2 responses, so the individual ancestries can add up to more than 100% of the population. Here we can see that English, Australian and Chinese are the most common ancestries, followed by Irish. Like birthplace and language, just hit the Show Me More to see the rest of the list down to 0.1% of population, and the full list is available in the data exporter. Ancestry is good for looking at the numbers of people in particular cultural groups not well identified by birthplace or language. For instance, Maori population are born in New Zealand and often speak English at home, so they are not really picked up anywhere except in the ancestry questions. Remember to always read the data notes for these topics. They will tell you, for instance, that Ancestry is only available back to 2001, and that some smaller Ancestry groups have been combined, and you can see which ones here. There's quite a few small Ancestry groups which have been combined into various other categories by region. Finally, on our cultural diversity tour, we have religion. This asks people's religious affiliation. It is an optional question, and around 9% of population nationwide didn't answer it. It doesn't ask anything about strength of belief or frequency of worship. Again, the main religions are in the list and also in the chart. And we include Show Me More, which will again give you the numbers down to 0.1% of population. And the summary table below includes Christian and non-Christian totals, as well as non-classifiable religious belief and no religion. And you can see in the case of Whitehorse that no religion has had by far the largest increase. Again, all of this information, including some groupings of the minor religions, is in the data notes. No religion includes atheism and agnosticism, and for those who are wondering, if you put your religion as Jedi, you end up in the non-classifiable religious belief category. Around 60,000 people did that in their last census. So this area has had an increase in non-Christian religions and in no religion, consistent with the migration pattern that we've seen. So you can see that by combining some of these topics together, you can build quite a rich narrative about the size and nature of cultural diversity in your area. And don't forget that we've been looking at the city of Whitehorse as one area, but you can also drill down in all of our profiles by suburb to see how these patterns we've identified differ from suburb to suburb. You can also look at some of the diversity topics in the atlas and see how they're spatially distributed, but that's a topic for another video. Thank you.